this does segue nicely into what we're talking about this morning, about why your friends and colleagues, possibly competitors, the family, why they're keeping you back in business.
You I had a lovely segue planned there, and you just did it in the most autistic, abrupt way possible.
Okay, well, go on. Then. Give me the nice segue. Let's pretend
So
that didn't
let's
happen.
pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So not only did Holly's mother, warn her about working with us, her own friends did. Her
Did
own
they?
friends, yet shared opinions, because at first she was set up as a contractor. Obviously, she's now a full-time proper employee, but her friends were like, well, make sure you get paid on time. They were saying, oh, that sounds dodgy, all because she was working for us and she initially set herself up as a contractor. And that's why friends can have some of the worst opinions when it comes to running your life and making money known to man. How about that for a segue rather than anyway, segue.
Hey, I'm autistic and stupid.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean, it is amazing how people who have no experience or knowledge or skill with business have got opinions about it. I don't go on Twitter though. Obviously, the tweets that people screenshot and send as memes or whatever, or just fucking mocking messages. There's a lot of people out there who probably think they know how to run Twitter, Tesla, and SpaceX better than Elon Musk does.
Yeah.
That's why he's poor and they're billionaires, of course.
Oh, but the other thing about Elon is, he's born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and this, that, and the other.
Maybe.
It's like, you think that's a guarantee that he's going to end up a billionaire? They say the same thing about bloody Kylie Jenner. They're like, oh, she's done nothing. It's all her mum, Chris. It's like, well, no, she's definitely done something because the company is literally named after her.
I mean, there's no doubt having rich parents and a privileged upbringing helps. Of course it does. But again, it's no guarantee. It's a little bit like the analogy would be genetic predisposition. You can have for instance, you could be genetically predisposed towards building muscle if you exercise in the right way, as some people are, genetic freaks, outliers. But if you never set foot in a gym, you won't be, you might be bigger and muscular than most other people who don't set foot in a gym, but you won't be as big and muscular as a less genetically gifted person who works out and eats properly.
Yeah.
Genetics are a predisposition for the most part. It's as simple as that,
We spoke about not long ago the danger of opinions, specifically uninformed opinions. And I think most people go, well, yeah, that's obvious. So we wanted to talk in particular about your friends giving you opinions.
And family.
Friends and family, because I'm going out on a limb here. I don't fully understand it because I try not to complain ever, which, I've had psychologists tell me is a coping mechanism, but hey, that's a whole story for another day. I pulled a similar face, John. However, what I'm told is normal is that you're meant to share your concerns and your fears and your worries with your loved ones being friends and families. And now, if I know business owners, they will share those worries about the business to their friends and family, to which you will receive advice.
And an opinion. Yes, absolutely. But if I were you, what you should do, now those words strike fear into my heart, and I'm not a nervous kind of guy, but they terrify me.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember once, I'm pretty sure I shared this not long ago. My mum told me that something I did was really good and I should keep doing more of it. And I quite frankly said, I appreciate the love. However, your opinion means nothing to me in this regard. Yeah, I went down like a sack of shit, that did.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you sure you're not autistic? That's got anything I'd come out with.
Yeah, she weren't happy with me.
No, I wonder why.
I stuck up with it, and it took me a week to realise why that might upset her. But that's because I was embodying this. I was like,
welcome to my life.
I was like, your opinion, good or bad, means nothing.
Well, actually, I've written this before. We haven't talked about it for a very long time, but I've certainly written it in newsletters and stuff, and indeed in social media posts, video and written. Um, we should be immune to criticism from unqualified people. But more important is being immune to praise from unqualified people.
Praise is dangerous.
Praise is really dangerous because we're more like me. We even if it's valid, we tend to resist criticism. So there's a wall there that keeps us a little bit safe in some ways. There is a danger we can perhaps ignore valid criticism, but that's, most criticism we get is not valid. It's from people who either are unskilled and unknowledgeable about a topic, or they could be knowledgeable in some respect, they can't see the whole. Like people say to me, I should dress smarter, not wear such a scruffy hat, maybe shave a bit more because it will harm my sales. But no, because they see a snapshot of EBG here. Every single sales call I've ever done in the last 6 months, probably only because this is a new hat and newish top. Every sales call I've ever done in my life, I've been dressed similarly, and I've still got a 75% conversion rate on a 5-figure item. Please don't tell me wearing a suit is going to materially affect that. And even if it does, I'm not prepared to do it. It's ridiculous. But they just say a snapshot. But praise doesn't meet any resistance. Even if you say, if you won't, if you ostensibly don't accept praise, no, it's not true. If you're modest, false modesty, it still has no resistance going in, and you love it. It's dopamine, isn't it?
Of course.
So praise is dangerous, and you shouldn't listen to it. Don't listen to it.
I'm a big, and this is a very self-serving opinion, but big believer in masterminds. The ability to have a group of trusted people you can go to that are going to be honest with you and give you different perspectives, and they're qualified to share their perspective on things. And who said it, John? It's a cliche as old as time.
Jim Rohn.
5 people. Is that Jim Rohn?
It was Jim Rohn.
I was going immediately.
I knew where it was going. Oh, yeah.
Love a bit of Jim Rohn, by the way.
Yeah. Shame he's dead. He's a really nice bloke. I met him once. He's a really nice bloke.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've watched a few hours of him speaking. He's a very engaging speaker.
Yeah, he's a very engaging speaker. He was. He's not now. He's dead.
Yeah, it was.
But he was a really nice bloke as well. I had quite a long conversation with him. One thing I really liked about him was he's even shorter than I am.
No way.
He was. I mean, remarkably. It was noticeably, not just a couple of an inch or a fraction. I was actually looking down. It's tiny little bloke. Honestly, I swear.
Really? I never knew Jim Rohn was that small.
Now it could have been because he was quite elderly at the time, so that would have had an effect as well. But even as a young man, he would have been no taller than I am for sure. But anyway, he was a really nice bloke, and I mean, whether he got the number 5 from, I don't know. But the principle is valid. You become more like the people you surround yourself with. And this has actually been shown with research. And there's a study, it was actually on heart disease, funnily enough, and obesity. But they then looked at other metrics with the same data set. Basically, if you have fat friends, you're more likely to be fat.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
And then it follows through lots of other habits too. But here's the really fucking scary thing. They also figured out, because they revisited the data, they also figured out, even if you're not friends with people, if you, say, interact with, I'm using fat as an example, if you, say, interact with fat people on social media, if your echo chamber is fat, you're more likely to be fat too. Now, that's really fucking scary because that influence is almost secondhand. That's very distant.
I haven't spent much time thinking about this. However, if I had to go out on a limb, I'd say it's because it alters your standards almost of what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. Because if you're in an African tribe, perhaps a really well-fed African tribe, but everyone's still got 6-packs and they go out hunting, you're going to deem that as the norm, even though they're probably top 1% physically elite people on the planet. But the more you're exposed to fat people, the more you deem it acceptable to be fat.
I'd imagine so.
Your parents' behaviour. The one of the main reasons everyone loves their parents, rule of thumb, is just because they've served so many impressions on us. They've literally imprinted on us, so therefore we deem their behaviour the acceptable way to go. I remember when we joined a mastermind, John. Sorry, I just want to finish this point. And even though we learned nothing new, We learned a couple of tactics, but materially, we didn't learn anything new from joining this mastermind. We enjoyed it thoroughly because it almost changed our perception of what was possible with our model and our offer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Because
remember
it was
that.
the first time I walked into a room where there was people doing 20 million odd a year from a coaching company.
What the fuck? We said.
What the fuck? And they had a team of 6 people,
Yeah.
20 mil a year. And at that, just all of a sudden, my perspective on life and everything just changed. And I believe our business grew at that point because we were talking to these people on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. A good example is that one of the guys in Core Control, when he joined us, is in the PT world, basically. He was selling his program, 3-month program, at about just under 500 quid. And he was struggling with it. Well, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago today now, he made his biggest ever sale at 1,500. And then a week ago today, I think it was it on the Monday? Anyway, that was Monday. So just last Monday, 5 days ago, he sold a year-long program at 7.5K. And he's done that because he's changed the people he's hanging around with. The people he was hanging around with before were other fit pros, among whom 500 quid for a program is a lot of money because a lot of them are selling things at 100 quid. Now, he was at the higher end, but now he's mixing with different people. To him, 7.5K, I wouldn't sell anything at 7.5K. It's too little for us. But there are reasons he went into 7.5K because he needs to be very comfortable selling it at that before he puts his price up. You know, if you feel comfortable selling at something at a price, you'll sell it well for the most part. Well, nothing has materially changed. I mean, his level of skill and knowledge and expertise in his chosen field of endeavour is the same now as it was 6 months ago when he joined Core Control, within a few percent. Right? He's not any better now than he was then. What has changed is his perception of what's possible and his skill and knowledge of marketing and positioning and pricing. He's just thinking differently about selling what he's already got. Well, this applies to everybody listening to this. You've all got something. Yeah? The only thing that's stopping you from selling it at 7.5, 10, 12K is how you're thinking about selling it.
Sorry, noisy people outside my window.
That's right. That's the only difference, his perception. And he's changed his perception of what he's selling and how to sell it and the price of it, etc., because he's hanging around with and talking to and discussing different topics with a whole different group of people. That's us this time.
An example, one of my good friends, one of your long-term clients, one of my long-term clients, one of your good friends as well. Probably can't name them here, but a pair of black geezers that we love to death recently invested in their company to essentially get consulting off a guy who's built a massive company. And the cost to get through the door to have the privilege of then paying monthly was 20 grand. Just up front, 20 grand. What do you get for that 20 grand? Nothing other than the ability to walk through the door. And if you want to stay in the room once you've walked through that door, it's 2K a month forever. And if you leave, well, you don't get that 20K back. No, that's the
setup fee. Yeah.
But there's nothing even to set up.
No, not really. No, just an account probably on a community or something. But
yeah, and that was, for me, I was like, if you was to ask me, is that possible? I'd say, of course. But seeing it?
Well, I think the question that most people stumble on is, it is clearly possible because people are doing it. The question that people don't want to ask themselves is it possible for me? Because if they ask that question and then they answer it critically and honestly, they'll realize it is possible for me. Okay, so if it's possible for me and I'm not doing it, what's the gap? Well, the gap is knowledge and application of that knowledge, wisdom, and then just taking action. That's all that's stopping it. Or that's uncomfortable because the actions required. Well, you imagine you're selling something, I don't know, fucking online coaching. Say you're a fit pro. Let's just use that example for now. Say you're a fit pro and you're selling something at 500 quid, and you want to go from that to being, 10K over a year. or maybe they're 60k over a year, so 5k a month thing, and maybe you charge 20k up front and then 40 over the remaining 9 months or 11 months or something. What do you have to do to bridge that gap? What do you have to learn? Well, you have to learn positioning. You have to learn effective sales. You have to learn assertiveness. You have to learn indifference to other people's opinions, because they will come down on you. There's so many things you have to do to bridge that gap, and most people, one, they're nervous of doing it, because there is a certain amount of disbelief there. I remember when I started selling at high end, I thought no one's going to pay this, and guess what? They did. Fucking hell, this is weird. But there's also this fear for most people, because of the people they're currently hanging around with. Crab bucket, crab bucket, crab bucket. You can't do that. I wouldn't do that. It's dishonest. It's immoral. It's really hard. You'll fail. You'll be upset when you fail. You know, and in today's business world, certainly in the circles that I'm familiar with, that is tantamount to saying your LinkedIn echo chamber won't approve. And that's a fair comment, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing you'll notice as you do grow, whether you join a mastermind, whether you stop listening to the opinions of your friends and family, and try and actually start talking to people that can better you and give you better insights. Going back to the crab bucket analogy, your friends and your family, they'll try and pull you back into that bucket of misery by making comments such as, "You've changed. I like the old you better. You work too much. You're colder. I don't know what's happened to you.
You never used to be like this."
I think every business owner has had those words thrown at them when they've tried to enter a period of growth.
Yeah, I almost certainly.
You're not spending enough time with me.
I mean, it's often obvious to me when, say, a medium size or a bigger business comes on board with us, and they start getting resistance from their fucking employees.
Oh.
And they'll say things like, "Oh, the company secretary, or the office secretary, or the bloke in the mailroom, he disagrees with what you're doing. He thinks, I don't give a fuck what the guy who delivers the fucking letters to your desk every day thinks. He delivers letters to your desk every day and does nothing else for a fucking reason. He might be stupid, he might be lazy, he might be both. I don't know. But the point is, he's not qualified to have an opinion on what we're doing in business. Or you, because you're his fucking employer."
Mm-hmm. And if he's got time to stop there and share his opinions,
he should be
working hard now.
I remember one client years and years and years ago, I wrote some copy for him. He came back, he said, "I love it, it's great. Let's go with this." Came back the next day, "Don't like it." "What's changed?" "Oh, my mother. She's a retired English teacher. She says, ... I thought, oh, for the love of fucking God." I said to him, "Do you want to make sales or do you want to appease your mother?" Well, actually, he wanted to appease his mother, so he paid his bill and went. Go figure. But yeah, it is. It's people, and I don't think they want to keep you back out of malice necessarily. Or no. I think sometimes there's an element of jealousy and envy there.